far is this place?
You asked, out of breath.
It's not too far,
reassured Midoriya, pointing towards an open recess below in the distance.
Campsite's right there.
If I knew how long this hike was, I would have at least prepared myself mentally. It feels like forever.
Your hands landed on your knees while you breathed deeply through your nose, feeling the burn in your lungs from the crisp mountain air. No amount of stress in any mission could match the fatigue you felt over time on this mountain trail. The backpack became a heavy weight 30 minutes or so ago, and your feet were killing you. You felt a large palm rub the back of your shoulder in a comforting way. You didn't need to turn your head up to know who that was. Izuku Midoriya had been nothing but supportive on this hike, at least for the past 30 minutes. Every so often he would offer a sip from his water bottle, reminding you to hydrate, and making sure that there were breaks to catch your breath. He was always looking out for you, but the hike did nothing to hinder his fitness. Moral support from the number one hero was a hilarious irony.
We're almost there,
continued Midoriya while he peered over the mountain trail.
I'd fly us over, but that's considered cheating.
Your skeptical eye turned upwards towards him, spotting a cheeky yet embarrassed look on his face.
What? You? Cheating?
You remarked through your breathing, feigning surprise.
I'd think less of you if you did that, but I appreciate the sentiment.
You pushed yourself back onto your feet, your body swaying a little from the momentum before Midoriya gently grabbed your waist to steady your balance. Your exhausted eyes peered at the destination that sat by the river below, its waters glistening against the sun's rays that beamed high above.
Okay, let's go.
You coaxed while you took a step past Midoriya. His hands still laid on your waist before he immediately grabbed a hold of your legs and swung you into his arms. You squeaked from the sudden motion, instinctively grabbing hold of his neck to adjust in his hold.
Izuku?
You called out, startled.
I think you've had enough endurance for this morning,
he playfully chirped.
I'll take care of the rest.
Midoriya swiftly made his way down the mountain trail, now with you in his arms. It still surprised you how he could independently continue to hold his strength with ease. There was something effortless in how he approached everything, from all things domestic to all things heroic. Far from the nervous, anxious young hero he was when the both of you first met. He had grown to become a confident soul, and he had been nothing but an inspiration, despite the fact that your fitness gave out on this simple hike. Being number one had its perks and its pitfalls, but so did your work at Sir Night Eye's agency and contracting out for operations with law enforcement. The crime rate had risen over time, and that meant more heroic work and paperwork was the staple. Eventually, it was Midoriya's idea for the number one to take some R&R, finding an opportunity over a weekend to get away from the city. Of course, the both of you discussed how to plan this together. The train trip to the mountainside was relaxing, mostly spent with you sleeping half the time on Midoriya's shoulder. The wake-up call was bright and early for your standards, but he didn't mind while he enjoyed the sights outside the carriage windows before he caught up on some reading about work, the last he would keep track before clocking out upon arrival. Polis Massa Bay was a spot Midoriya was suggested through work to take time off. If not for the beach side or the attractions, the mountainside was a breath of fresh air. Midoriya had decided with you to do just that, and so hired a campsite for the both of you to enjoy a weekend out. Needless to say, it entailed a long and winding hike to get to the spot, thus the early start to traveling to the bay itself. During the start of it, you felt overjoyed and excited, seeing how beautiful the landscape of the mountains was in the early morning sun. But now, you were glad you were off your feet.
Thanks.
You spoke.
I'm glad at least I can float all the way there.
This is still a team effort,
commented Midoriya.
You're just going to have to help me pitch the tent and search for firewood.
You rolled your eyes at the sentiment.
Okay, deal.
Midoriya stopped in his tracks while he looked around, searching with his eyes where the origins of that muffled cry came from.
Kachan?
He questioned, twirling on the spot with you in tow, scanning the mountainside. Your eyes were alert with every quick movement Midoriya made to locate the sound, before you lightly tapped his shoulder.
Hold still.
You asked quietly while your eyes adjusted and activated your quirk. Your sight magnified in the general direction of the sound, scanning the face of the mountain before you noticed movement.
There.
You pointed towards a ledge on the mountain.
It is Bakugo.
Huh? What is Kachan doing here?
Asked Midoriya, both surprise and concern in his voice.
He's not alone. Looks like he's rescuing his partner, who's saving someone else. A rock climber?
Are they alright?
I think so. There's a lot of yelling going on.
The grip on Midoriya's hands tightened on your body before you felt him jump into the air, the intensity of its force pushing against yours. It felt like a moment before your stomach flipped inside, feeling the weightlessness as soon as you noticed that you were floating in midair, eyeing the miles of trees and the winding river below.
Woo! Well, I guess we're flying to the campsite after all.
You remarked with a lopsided smile.
Oh, right.
Chuckled Midoriya sheepishly.
We'll check out what's going on, and then I'll take you this way. But the deal still stands.
Sure, but because you cheated, I'll light the fire and you search for the firewood.
Midoriya stared at you flabbergasted at your proposal, only for his astonishment to turn into a warm smile.
You drive a hard bargain sometimes.
That's my final offer.
Midoriya couldn't help but nuzzle into your cheek, causing you to giggle from his touch.
Hold tight,
he warned in your ear before he released your legs and held you tightly by your waist. Your arms still held his neck before you spotted black tendrils appearing from his wrist, whipping them towards the tops of a canopy of trees. With precision, Midoriya pulled and maneuvered through the air towards the mountainside, soon spotting the people in question. Indeed, it was Bakugo on this particular mountain trail, along with his significant other, and a terrified yet grateful rock climber. It looked as if all parties were safe and sound by the time you reached them. However, the look on Bakugo's face upon seeing Midoriya was disconcerting.
Everything alright?
Asked Midoriya while he floated just beyond the edge of the mountain trail.
Oh, hey Midoriya!
What the hell are you doing here, Deku?
You weren't surprised by Bakugo's response. Ever since you've met him in person, you still wondered how Midoriya and he were childhood friends, let alone best friends, according to Midoriya.
We're having a weekend out, camping away from work,
explained Midoriya.
Guess you guys are doing the same?
Yeah, just a weekend away ourselves, really,"
replied Bakugo's significant other while they tended to the rock climber, slightly shaken.
"You know, maybe we could hang out together for dinner tonight, if you guys are free."
You couldn't help but stifle a chuckle, watching Bakugo's expression smolder after that offer being made. However, as much as you found the hilarity in his reaction, your apprehension won over the most. Midoriya felt the same way.
Thanks, but we already made plans.
He responded with a nervous grin, pointing towards your campsite below.
We're out here for the weekend.
Plus, we need to pitch the tent. Right, Izuku?
You followed after with a smile. Midoriya turned to you slightly confused for a moment, before the realization dawned on him, smiling back.
Yeah, we kinda do.
He continued, still sheepish.
It was nice to see you guys.
Black tendrils appeared from his hand again, grabbing for another anchor among the trees below.
Hope you're doing okay, Ka-chan.
I'm doing just fine,
retorted Bakugo with a frustrated scowl.
Just great.
Bidding farewell to the couple, Midoriya slung himself towards a campsite while holding onto you tightly. The rush of the mountain air whipped through your hair until the campsite was in view, on approach at an alarming speed. You gripped onto Midoriya as he did onto you, tightly in his arms. His legs swung out in front, preparing for what many would call a hero's landing. Midoriya landed square on his feet before he skidded across the ground, having no issue taking the brunt of the fall and your weight combined. As soon as you slowed and the dust settled, you realized he held your head in the palm of his hand, cradling you against his chest.
You okay?
Asked Midoriya while he inspected your form for any harm.
Yeah, never knew I missed roller coasters until now.
You commented with a grin and a slightly nervous tone. That shot of adrenaline coursed through your body, and the butterflies still lingered in your stomach.
Next time we can visit the amusement park,
remarked Midoriya with a happy grin.
Let's hold off on that for a while.
Midoriya, with a smooth dip of his arms, allowed you to stand on your feet until you turned towards the campsite ahead. The fall prohibited you from having a clear view of the campsite in the air. Despite your quirk operating in that way, it didn't help that the rush and the slight panic you felt in Midoriya's recklessness froze you up. You were met with an already pitched tent and an already built fire pit, except the tent was decked with all the necessities and luxuries of modern living, to some degree. Strewn about a large wooden patio were rugs, a large king-size bed, which you inwardly chuckled at the thought, and all the items included for a more than comfortable stay. It was rustic with its large oversized canopy enveloping the space, staring at the sight for a moment, processing the scene until...
Glamping?
You asked, confused.
Thought I'd surprise you,
replied Midoriya.
We did agree to camp out, and I figured the trail was a little too long for you to sustain.
You already thought I couldn't make it here?
But that's why I organized the trail. Risk and reward.
Huh.
An anxious chuckle exhaled from Midoriya, while a sigh escaped from you. You hated to admit it, but you weren't built for endurance. Eventually, you settled in the large tent and spent most of the daylight hours relaxing with Midoriya and indulging in some of the luxuries available to you. There were perks to dating the number one in that people offered so much more, but you knew Midoriya was one that never asked for any more than he needed. Anything that was given, he would pay it forward, somehow, in any way possible. Nightfall soon approached, with the sun setting past the stretch of trees in the valley you both nestled in. You also realized that all that was needed was to light the fire pit that was already pre-done with firewood. Your expression falling to a pout after remembering your pre-arranged deal with Midoriya. Successful, after some failed attempts to strike a spark from your flint, a campfire was born, its warmth spreading across your skin while Midoriya cooked a decent meal over the pit. Now, with a blanket wrapped around your shoulders, you sat by the fire in conversation while staring up at the night sky, admiring the twinkle of stars that decorated the darkness.
That's crazy!
You commented.
They just hightailed in thin air? What kind of quirk is that?
Oh, believe me, there are similar quirks that operate in that way,
answered Midoriya while he leaned on his hands.
But the footage wasn't doctored. They deliberately disappeared in a flash of light at the scene before either of us arrived. What makes me worry the most was they knew the camera was there.
Huh. They intended to be seen,
you concluded with a thoughtful pout, hearing Midoriya affirm your statement. Despite this getaway, you both fell back into conversing about work. Midoriya's last readings of his case notes that morning on the train trip became the source of the conversation after that bank heist fiasco. It was enlightening to learn more about that missing fifth member.
I guess I could follow up at my agency. Get a lead now that we have a likeness and quirk information on them,
you offered, earning a headshake from Midoriya.
No need. My agency has that sorted at the moment. You've done too much already,
he concluded with a smile.
But, sorry to bring up work while we're here.
This earned a headshake before you hugged into his frame, your head leaning onto his shoulder again. If not for the fire, you felt the warmth from his body transfer onto you in the chilly night air.
Thanks for arranging this,
you purred, while you felt his arm snake around your waist.
Thanks for being here,
he replied, smiling at you. The fire and his warmth drifted you into a deep sleep. Listening to the sounds of the mountain lull you further. You did not feel the large arms of Midoriya carry you back into the large tent, nor the kiss he laid atop your head, content in your slumber. But as soon as he zipped the tent door shut, he joined you in bed, cradling you in his arms. A multitude of thoughts ran through his mind, one being his choice of venue, his choice of time and place, and of other things. He felt you turn in bed towards him before you nuzzled into his chest, still asleep of course, yet it only made him smile while he mulled over what he was going to do. He still needed to know what you liked around your finger.